Knicks and Bruises, we are back. Shout out to the chat, Yo Black is Time. I got the Queen in the building with me. What up, Queen?
What's up, Tony? I'm
I'm
doing
good.
good. How you doing?
I'm good. I've got a little bit of anxiety waiting for this game. You know what I mean? But you and I both got to rewatch game one
Mhm.
a little bit for the most part. So we're gonna kind of pick out some things that we noticed that we might have missed from the initial watch and initial reactions. And we're gonna talk about a sore loser, a sore Thomas, Thompson, with his comments. Before the series started, you had Beasley talking trash, talking about the Knicks and teams in the East are scared of Detroit, and we didn't really cover that too much. But now you got Sir Thompson.
Mhm.
He was asked about Brunson, guarding Brunson, the difficulties in guarding Brunson. Basically said, you can't you got to make sure you don't foul. He's good at drawing fouls or selling fouls. And then they asked him about some of the challenges, and he said there's no challenges. And I just thought that was interesting coming from this young team. They don't know about the bulletin board material. They don't know about just not amping the team up. And I think it's going to be some extra motivation behind that, especially coming from Brunson, who didn't particularly have a good first half, um, or arguably a good three quarters. You know what I mean? Based off the rewatch, he really didn't turn it up until the fourth quarter,
Mhm.
and that wasn't really due to Thompson or the Pistons defense, in my opinion. So that was like one of the main things that stood out to me. But yeah. So let's. What do you think of Asura Thompson's comments? Beasley's comments, um, as motivation.
I'm not sure if it's yeah. Oh, okay. Well, I'll say first, I'm not sure how much of it is just youth and not knowing to stay away from bulletin board material. I think he's just confident. Um, and I think that comes from Bickerstaff, even the way Bickerstaff talks in the press conference, that type of toughness and not being afraid and those sorts of things. So I just think that's just him being confident. I don't think the Knicks are going to take that as bulletin board material. Maybe Brunson might like a little bit in the back of his mind, but I don't think that's going to be what's driving him this game, those comments, I think the Knicks are pretty focused. They understand the importance of this game. They understand that every game is a game within itself. So I expect them to be super focused. But yeah, I think I'm sure Brunson heard it in the back of his mind. If he gets that opportunity, he'll take it.
Yeah, the main driving force is probably going to be his performance in the first three quarters. You know what I mean, in
Right,
general.
correct.
But I think 100%. Yeah, now the matchup individually is going to be a little bit more personal at times. Hopefully not too much where it becomes a detriment. I
Right.
don't believe that. You know what I mean? But yeah, like you said, back of his mind, knowing in the moment, oh, he's on me right now, which it will be a lot. Yeah, he's gonna go at him a little bit better. And I think he did it. I mean, he had him in foul trouble early. Two early fouls, had to sit most of the first half. So the impact he had defensively wasn't necessarily the reason of Brunson's poor performance. And I guess we could kind of start there. Um,
Yeah.
I think we both agreed with that. One of the first things we noticed off the rewatch, you know what I mean. It wasn't necessarily Detroit's defense, um, but Brunson just missing shots. If you want to start off and maybe elaborate or just give your what you
Yeah,
thought.
I thought, yeah, I thought he got good shots. I mean, some will argue that the physicality of the defense may have made his shots come up short. That's just not what I saw on the rewatch. I think he got his regular shots. I don't think they were being super physical with him to kind of throw him off his spots, and I'm not taking anything away from their defense. I think it was solid all around, but I just think Brunson missed. And, thank goodness OG was there for us in that first half, particularly in the first quarter. So Brunson, every game is different. Like you can't expect that this is going to be, OG. So I think Brunson will be better in the first half.
Yeah, I agree. You mentioned OG. I think OG and Towns carried us in that first half of that game. With Brunson having a bad shooting performance, I'll say. With Mikal, I think he shot 3 for 5, maybe 3 for 6 in that first half. But that in itself is telling as well because 6 shots is not a lot, especially when you're shooting the ball well. And I think he ended up 4 for 8 or 4 for 9 for the game, which means he only took 3 more shots in the second half. Um, so Mikal, I think, and I don't think we really pushed on him having a bad performance. I
Mhm.
think it was just maybe underwhelming. Wasn't aggressive enough. I think 9 shot attempts is not nearly enough for him. For him to be a threat, especially when you're shooting close to 50%. For the game, you know, you can be more of a threat, and that in turn may help Brunson, may get him easier shots. Even though we both agree, the shots he missed, he normally makes. Um,
I that was the second thing that stood out for me, or one of the other things that stood out for me was that Bridges didn't necessarily have a bad game. I thought that he was defensively, I thought he was really good. You know, I would have to probably look at it a third time to see was he turning down shots or the shots just weren't coming his way. You know what I mean? And sometimes that happens in a game because the Knicks have so many threats. So there probably will be a game where OG doesn't get as many shots as we think. Everybody is not going to get equal what we think their shot should be every game because it really depends on the defense and how the defense is playing them. Who's hot, that person might get more shots. But I thought Mikal Bridges, just rewatching up until the point that I did, I thought he was all right. I thought he was okay.
yeah, I think you made a great point about watching it a third time to see if he was turning down shots or not. Because I really couldn't tell either, or at least
Yeah.
nothing stood out to me. So it may have just been the ball not going to him. But even that is something that should be fixed. You know what I mean? Should be uh, analyzed and approached as far as adjustments moving forward, whether it's the coach initiating it or Brunson himself initiating it, or
I
McCall
don't know.
himself either.
I don't. You know what? I don't know about that now. Um, because the Knicks got a lot of good shots from OG, from Cat, from Brunson. That's just the way the game went. I don't know if I want to say, all right, we're going to make a concerted effort this game to get Mikal shots. I mean, I think you do that for a Cat. I think you do that for a Brunson. OG and Bridges, they just get what they get depending on how the defense goes. Unless you see a particular matchup that you felt like you didn't take advantage of, and you can say, you know what, the next game we're going to try to take advantage of this. But
Here's why I
I,
here's why I would do it though. Um,
mhm.
long term long term benefits from it. You know what I mean? You don't want that, even if that's just the way the game goes. And then let's say that's just the way the game goes again. Next thing you know, that's just the way the series goes. You know what I mean? You
But if
want
you're winning, why is that a big deal?
I don't think finding him 4 more shots a game, you know what I mean, is gonna make you lose. Is gonna sway the direction of us winning. But him getting 4 more shots or him getting in a better rhythm or him getting hot benefits us more long term, especially if we're winning and we're advancing. You know what I mean? My point was in the long term, even if we win the series, even if we sweep the series, I don't want Mikal going into the next series averaging 8 points, 10 points a game, four
And what
shots.
if he does? Like, I don't see Mikal as being somebody, if he's, say the ball doesn't go his way one game, that he's not going to be prepared if it goes the next game, or if it doesn't go in the series. Tom Thibodeau down. He came in with 1 minute and 58 seconds left. They went to him. He hit his first shot. Like, I just don't think it's going to throw. I just don't think it's going to throw him off. I don't know. I don't know. I think it's something I have to think about more. I think I'm just thinking, if you're getting your shots in the flow of the game, keep it going. Don't come out of the flow of the game because we specifically want to get somebody
Do,
some shots.
do you think had we lost the game, do you think your opinion would be the same with the same shot attempts? Because
Mm, I don't
you,
know if I'm not sure. It's hard to say. It's hard to say. I just think there are going to be times when guys are not going to get OG or Mikal are not going to get the shots if the other one is, the other one is going. Um, yeah, I don't know.
and,
It's something I'll think
and
about more.
and just on a just to kind of push it a little bit more, had OG not had the game he had, or not even the game, to be honest, because this was another thing that I noticed. The first half he had, because it was 19 in the first half. I think he ended with maybe what 22. OG did, you
I
know what I mean,
believe
or
so.
or, or, or
Hmm.
maybe mid 20s. You know what I mean? So it was the first half that really, he came through for us, carried us, and second half defense, so great, no, you know what I mean, no issue. But second half he wasn't
Hmm.
as efficient or as offensively impactful for us. But had he not had that first half, again, those are going to be a situation where now we need Mikal, and and and
And I
and
think he would
my
step up.
my only thing is really about aggression. You know what I mean? And to your point and my acknowledgement, I did not notice him turning down shots, and that would be more of a problem in this situation. You know what I mean? If he wasn't turning down them and it was just in the flow, hey, it may not fall that way this game and in the series. But it's something I'm keeping an eye out on moving forward.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
anything else you noticed in your rewatch?
Um, yeah, I liked, um, Cat being very aggressive in the post, like not settling, not settling for shots. Whether it was Harris, whoever was on him, that he was in the post. I thought Deuce in rewatching the game defensively was fine.
He
He
was.
missed those two shots. He had a turnover. He had two turnovers, but I saw one of them on the replay that wasn't great. But I thought his defense was good also. And I'm not sure if we talked about this before, but coming out with Bridges bringing up the like,
Wait,
so
you
we don't even
you
have
you
to
you
we
broke
don't
up.
even have
Can
to
you
work.
start again? You broke up.
Oh, okay. All right. How am I sounding now?
I got you.
Okay. Um, Starting out with Bridges bringing the ball up, and then and Brunson playing off the ball negates um, Thompson's defense um, on Brunson. Tiring him out, him having to bring it up time and time again. Like, we just started from the giddy up with Mikal bringing up the ball. I thought that was a nice adjustment, and we may have talked about this too, but I noticed it again. Just going to the pick and roll with when Duran was on Hart, um,
Hmm.
and that's something that in the past, we didn't do as much. I thought that was, I thought, yeah, I
Both
thought that was
both
good.
of those both of those things we utilized from the beginning of the game. Mikhail bringing the ball up and Josh Hart in that action because Durant
Hmm.
was on him. And I definitely noticed that on the rewatch. Didn't really pay that same attention the first time around. I got to give you credit and you props because my initial thought in watching the game in the first half, the first three quarters, was that Detroit outworked us, out hustled us. You know what I mean? Wanted it more in a sense.
Hmm.
I don't think that was the case on the rewatch. I didn't see that the same way. Um, I saw more context in the game, so more of some missed calls, if you will, some maybe missed opportunities um that I didn't necessarily notice, and it looked like they was playing harder. It looked like they was getting those 50-50 balls. A lot of times we
Hmm.
might have got it, and they called a foot out of bounds or whatever the nuance was to the play
Right.
that it could have went either way. Swing plays that I don't think had anything to do with effort per se, but just had to do with the call. Maybe it was a little bit more physical. I thought it should have been a call. There was no call, and it ended up being a play on. So in the midst of all that, it ended up being a tight game. But we went on
Hmm.
a couple of runs. Not 21-0 runs, but a couple
Hmm.
of 7-0 runs, 5-0 runs in the midst of that first half that I didn't necessarily notice the same way the first time around, but
Hmm.
because it was so close of a game. So credit to you. You didn't see it that way initially. But yeah, on a
Yeah.
rewatch, I saw it a little different. Um, Another thing I
Yeah.
noticed was the double big minutes, which
Hmm.
initially I liked. I spoke on it, and I forgot who it was, but somebody referenced it being a minus, or I think you somebody referenced it being a
Right. Right.
minus.
Hmm.
Um, but I thought the defense was definitely its peak in those double big minutes. I think
Hmm.
or I noticed when they took Deuce out and took Cam out and put in Hart and Bridges. I mean Brunson and Bridges.
Brunson.
That's
Hmm.
when the lead decreased. Um Now to me, that was a credit to what you mentioned. Deuce actually playing a good game, just not shooting well. And
Right.
yeah, those double big minutes, I really like what I see in those minutes. I think I stand on it that those are that's kind
Hmm.
of like our best defensive lineup, and especially if Cat is gonna stay out of foul trouble, let alone play the defense he played last game. You know what I mean? I'm okay with him just staying out of foul trouble, but if you're gonna play that defense like he played last game, that's a game changer for the double big lineup. Um, but what's your thoughts on those
I think
minutes?
more than a double. I think more than a double big lineup is just Mitch getting more minutes. Um, I just think because I'm not that enamored with Towns defending Harris in space, and I don't think they took advantage of it. I mean, one time they ran Harris off a double screen, and he got a wide open look, and they never went back to that, which was good. Which was good for us. And I'm not saying that Cat can't defend Harris, but I think the most important thing is just Mitchell Robinson, particularly those minutes he's playing with OG. The thing about it, to me, I think that's more important than the double
I
big is Mitch
I
minutes.
ain't gonna lie, I agree with you. I agree with you,
Yeah,
but there's a lot
but
of give and take when you
right, but how can you give Mitch if they're just playing behind each other? The more minutes Mitch play, the less minutes Cat play. So now you
exactly.
need the double big. But for me, it's more about how do we find more minutes from Mitch, if that makes sense.
It makes sense because to your credit or your point, Mitch has been great with or without Cat. You
Right.
know what I mean? Like his impact has been the same, and which is good to great with
Hmm.
or without Cat. You know what I mean?
Right.
I think there are still some issues with the double big lineup, but I
Right.
think they haven't been a detriment as of yet. And it could be new. It could be because teams haven't seen it enough from us to know how to manipulate it or whatever the case.
And
Um,
Detroit just doesn't have that many offensive options. Like, because, and we'll talk about this is one of my questions for Queens Court. DJ Shuttle talked about double big lineup is not necessarily something we need against
Detroit.
Detroit. I don't think it's something that hurts us against Detroit. I'm not sure they can, you know,
They have the
I'm not sure what they
personnel
can
to go
do
against it.
to exploit it. You know what I mean? So I think it's something that it's not going to hurt us. And I think it does help us because we get Mitch defense and then you still can get some offense from Cat.
But to Shuttle's credit, the more we utilize it now, the more
Yes.
we have the experience for it later on, and that's what's really exciting me about just seeing it. Number one, not being exposed off the rip, you know what I mean, and the benefits of
Hmm.
it, which I think have been pretty good. Um, Trying to think any other things really stood out
I mean,
to
I'm
me.
not sure how much you're gonna like if we get past Detroit, and I really think we will, and we play Boston. I'm not sure how much that helps us in versus Boston. But I guess
You
that's a
saying
topic for another day.
the double bid part.
Yeah.
I agree. I think the best uses it would probably be against Cleveland. Um,
Right.
I think the only time we may be able to utilize it with Boston is when they go big with Horford and KP. But even that that's still stretching the floor. Um,
Yeah.
I would in that instance I would probably still want Mitchell Robinson on. Um, I mean, I don't know. I think Mitchell Robinson will probably do better on either
Yeah.
one of them than Cat in space anyway. So you know what I mean.
Hmm. Hmm.
But you may have to go that route in that situation.
Right.
You know what I
Right.
mean. So
Yeah.
so, but I agree. It probably most effective against Cleveland. But I still think there's
Eddie, I hear you, Eddie. I'm with you. That's why I prefaced it by saying I'm not trying to, we got to get past Detroit. So I'm with you
I
on that.
agree 100%. But I mean, Eddie, you gonna be mad at me because I feel more confident off the rewatch about. I mean, not that I had a fear that we would lose the series anyway, but I feel more confident in how we win and how fast we win than I did initially. I initially had us in six. Now I'm ready to go to five, and I wouldn't be surprised at four. You know what I mean? And again, I know we gotta let them play out, but this is off the rewatch, and the 21-0 run was great, and we
Mhm.
needed it, but it felt different watching it the second time. I thought we was gonna. I was worried at the end of the third quarter after the first watch.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And I felt like we needed that run. Watching it again, it might not have had to been 21-0 for us to still win that game, in my opinion,
Mhm.
because we were right there the whole time anyway. Um, and it was a lot of things that I think won't go on again. Brunson shooting as bad as he did in the first half. Uh, Deuce shooting as bad as he did. I do agree. I do believe whether you think
Mhm.
we need it or not. I do believe Mikal is going to be way more aggressive this game
I
and moving
agree.
forward than last game. And just another
Yeah.
thing that I think we can utilize, but I've been saying this all year long, is actually getting the cat the ball more. Like Um, I think he has an
Yep.
advantage in the series in particular.
Hmm. Yep.
He's been efficient, you know, all year, but particularly last game as well. Um, and him shooting a little bit more threes. You know what I mean? He don't got to force them up, but I mean, even there, he's efficient. You know what I mean? So why not get a couple
Right.
more of them
Right.
up a game?
Hmm.
So I don't know if it's running it through him more or just finding him more. And I know we got a lot of weapons. I know it's the same argument for Mikel, how to you get him more shots, but I think we got to utilize all of our guys and or figure out how to utilize all of our guys more because we have a lot of mismatches. Like you say, we leave a lot of meat on the bone. But what's your thoughts on my long-winded rant?
Um, I I'm not sure how the Knicks are doing it. Like, is their approach? We're gonna try as much as we can to get advantages off of Brunson. If they're not able to stop that, and there's always two to the ball, that's how we're gonna continue to run our offense, and then we'll swing it around. Whoever gets the open shot gets the open shot, and or if they're able to shut that down, now we're gonna go through Cat, see if we can get two to the ball, and work our advantages that way. I don't know if that's their approach, or is the approach whoever's whoever you think has the advantage, that's who you go through. If it's Brunson, fine. If you see Cat, a small on Cat, then you go to Cat. If you see a small on Bridges, you go to Bridges. But the way it seems to me is the first way.
Yes,
Brunson,
yes,
as long as you can continue to get two to the ball and you're creating the advantage, whoever you can find off of that, if they stop that, we'll look for something else. That's the way it seems to me. And in the beginning of the season, it seemed like it was the other way. We're going to Cat to get the advantages. Brunson, you're going to play um, off of Cat. So I'm not sure if they have a pecking order, so to speak, in terms of advantages. If it's just how the game goes, I don't know. But it seems to me it's whatever you can get off of Brunson, unless they stop it.
unless they stop. I agree
And
one hundred percent.
I don't know if that's the game plan, the offensive game plan. I don't know.
That's I mean that's where let's assume that is what it is because I think we both see the same thing. You know what I mean? We're not in the locker room, but and let's assume this is some of the griefs that people have with Tom.
Mhm.
Um, do you think that's the best option, like as a strategy all the time? Because me personally, I feel like
Mhm.
you sh- he could be the number one. He should always be the closer. There's no argument ever with that as far as Brunson for this team. He should always be the closer. But I feel like we should look for the biggest mismatch every night. And if it changes night in and night out, it changes. Most times it's gonna be Brunson anyway. But I don't know. Well, what's your thoughts on
Brunson,
that?
but
If
the
that is the
difference, yeah, I think that's fair. The difference is Brunson creates advantages, whereas the other ones they just have advantages
advantage,
based on them based on the matchup, right?
that's
Brunson creates,
that's true.
he creates the advantage. I think, I agree with, like, how do you get others involved, right? Because you don't want to. I'm not a fan of a Brunson centric or what they call a heliocentric offense where it's just Brunson, or when Luca was at Dallas, right? He was just generating, and that's what's going on with Cade, right? He
Mhm.
creates everything for
Everything, yeah.
himself and for others. I'm not a big fan of that. However, I'm also not a big fan of spraying it all around
Just to
because
do
you're
it.
helping the other team when you have somebody as dynamic as Brunson, and at the end of the night he took 12 shots. The other team is happy with that. See, it's just finding the balance
It's
night in and
it's
night out.
it's a fine line. It's a
Yeah,
fine line. I mean,
yeah,
I guess we both agree. And again, it's not
yeah. And I agree,
necessarily.
Cash should get more shots. How do you what do you do though? Do you is that just happens to the flow of the game, or is it a concerted effort to get him more shots when whatever else you're doing is working too?
And again, like I'm never really on the side of against Thibodeau, but I always
Hmm.
like to hear the people who can explain their griefs, right? And
Yes, yeah, yeah, yeah.
these are some of the things that I hear, like um you know, like not taking advantage of these things early will hurt you later. You know what I mean? Like having these things in your bag throughout the year, where you know you switch it up. You go through, you run a game through Cat, you run things through. You know what I mean? You empower this guy when he has the mismatch, McHale in the post, whatever it be. Those things will benefit you more long term than it does hindering you, even if it doesn't work in the moment, like this game, that game. You know what I mean? Like, because you don't want to try these things out now in the playoffs. You know what I mean? You don't want to,
But
unless it's through necessity, which
yeah, I
I've
don't think it
always said
hurts them.
Tibbs
Hmm.
moves through necessity. You know what I mean?
Right.
When he expands his rotation, it's by necessity. When guys get out, like he doesn't experiment much. And again, these are not knocks; these are observations and things
Right.
that when people mention them, I acknowledge them. You know what I mean? Like, all right, you're not just hating
Yeah.
on Tibbs; you have legitimate gripes.
Right. But I don't know how it hurts you later because Cat Cat knows how to play if the ball went through him.
The
So if we went
advantage is
five
there.
games without it going through him, that sixth game is like, oh my God, we waited too late. Now he doesn't know what to do. I just don't think that's the case. And the same
Well,
thing with Bridges. I don't think
you're
that's the case either.
the only difference is even with the ball going through him doesn't mean he's taking all the attempts. So
Right.
he may know how to do what he got to do, but the other guys still have to know how to move around him when it's going through him. You know what I mean? Like and again,
This is a smart basketball team.
it's
I
fast
think they
forwards
I think they could do it.
the chemistry is what I mean. But even for me, I felt like we weren't going to see a lot of this until next year anyway. More, more so because we know the formula of going through Brunson works, and until it doesn't work, you know what I mean. You're not going to change it. And he came what 2 games into the off before the off season. You're not going to just start with a whole new system. You know what I mean?
I
That
mean,
that
we
soon,
went
but
through Cat.
yeah.
And, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead and say what you was gonna say because I think
We
I
went
could piggyback.
we went through Cat earlier in the season more, but I think that was easier because earlier in the season they had centers on Cat, and so I think it was easier to run the offense through Cat. The spacing was just immaculate. I mean, the spacing was immaculate. Now they're putting smalls on him. I mean, I guess you can argue even with a small on him, you could still run the offense through him because he can, if he gets in the post, they'll probably run double teams. But a lot of times, even with the smalls, when Cat takes them in the post, I don't see a lot of double teams. Maybe I'm missing it. I think a lot of teams are content to let their small battle Cat in the post and let him get what he gets.
I think you're 100% right. I think and I think part of that is because the smaller guys they tend to do. He doesn't muscle them and get to the paint. You know what I mean? Like he's not backing them down and dunking the ball, but he still
Right,
shoots at a great high percentage. You know what I mean? So the
right,
aesthetic of it doesn't look like he's dominating those uh those
right,
matchups, but the numbers will say he is. Shout out
right.
to
And I think the coach is like, we'll give him that. If he's shooting over our small and we'll give him that, because if we start sitting a double team, he's going to pick us apart with his with his passing, and now other guys are going to get going.
Yeah, shout out to the chat. Otherwise, he said that was Cat's best game as a Nick. He will get the
Will
he
we?
will we get this the rest of the playoffs? If so, we up. First part though, you think this was his best game as a Nick, or up there?
Yeah, if you're talking two way, if you're
Yes,
bringing in, and that was another thing I noticed. Cats defense wasn't just in the fourth quarter. The
it
rotation
was.
blocks in the first half and things like that. So one
Yep.
time he came up on a pick and roll, and OG was able to get a steal on Cam and go the other way. So yeah, if you include the defense, yeah, I don't know if I can argue. And the degree of difficulty in his shots, to me, that shows that he was locked. He was just locked on the offensive end. Like
It's
whenever
especially
I get my opportunity, it was like a 180 finger
running.
roll.
He had.
Like,
I I agree on the degree of difficulty and the fact that he shot the percentage he shot. I think he was like he might have been like 8 or 9 or something early, like I mean his first 9 shots. He might have only missed one
yeah,
shot.
yeah,
And with the degree of difficulty, I agree. He was locked in for sure. And it also felt like a quiet performance. You know what I mean? Like it
right,
wasn't super loud offensively. The defense stood
right,
out. The defense was loud. You know what I mean? But
right,
offensively,
right.
by the end of the game, I looked up like, oh, I didn't even know he had what he had 26,
2023, I want to say.
23. Yeah, I'm like I didn't even know
Yeah,
he had that much. Um,
yeah.
so yeah, it was a nice performance, but it made you say like it was his best performance, yeah, or he
Hmm.
could be better than that. Like that's what I took. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't like stand out best performance. It wasn't like
Right, right,
oh headline cat kills the Pistons. You know what
right,
I mean?
right,
Like,
right.
and I think we could still see that. You know what I mean? 5 steals, two
Yeah,
blocks. Yeah, the defense was loud.
yeah,
That wasn't
yeah,
quiet. Um,
yeah. Definitely.
anything you want to touch on?
Um,
Anything you? I know we'll probably deep dive later. Especially some show, your
yeah,
show.
yeah, yeah,
Um, any
yeah.
adjustments you think we could make moving forwards, or even the Pistons?
I don't even know if there's adjustments we need to make. I think Brunson needs to play better and will. I
Yep.
think McBride will be better on
Yep.
the offensive end. I think Bridges
Mikel,
will be better
more
on the
aggressive.
offensive end. I think the Knicks defense, where there were times when we missed people in transition, or we double teamed unnecessarily and didn't rotate, and some of them
Mhm.
got free. I think we're going to clean all of that up. I don't know what Detroit is going to do or what they can do. But whatever it is, I'm going to be interested to see how Tom counters and how the team executes. Because we're not going to know that. I mean, I'm sure the coaching staff is back there like they'll do this and maybe they'll do that. And if they do this, we'll do that. So they'll be doing some of that pre-work ahead of time. But it's going to be interesting to see what Detroit actually does and
Mhm.
how we respond um, to that. I think the Knicks are a better team talent wise, and Detroit, they may know how to beat the Knicks, but the question becomes, do they have the
Can
personnel to carry out
yeah.
that whatever that game plan is?
I was gonna say I thought they were deeper than they actually are. Like
Hmm.
from the regular season, I was like, oh, they're a pretty deep young team. Watching
Hmm.
this game, especially off the rewatch, they're not as deep
Hmm.
as I thought. Initially. Um,
Hmm.
I agree with you. There's not many things I would do for the Knicks to adjust. You know what I mean? You won the game. If certain guys shoot better, like I think it's a blowout early, and that fourth quarter we might have seen that way earlier throughout the game. You know what I mean? Where the game was out of reach. I really believe that based off the rewatch, which is crazy because I really thought they out efforted us and out fought us, and I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
no, we just missed shots. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you know, Tobias got hot. You know, Hardaway got hot, and I think in the third quarter, um, yeah, but we they shot the ball great from three. So if I'm Detroit or if I'm the Knicks, that's the biggest thing that I'm concerned about. You know what I mean? If I'm
That
Detroit,
they may take more threes.
I'm trying to put up 40 plus. They shot 32 or 47%. If they shoot 40 or 50 at 40%, you know what I mean? Like that becomes a lot more dangerous, especially
That's
because
not their game, though. Just like
it
that's not the Knicks game in terms of 3-point value. That's not their game. But I hear what you're saying. They may push it.
is their game. Are they a low volume shooting team or a low
Yes.
percentage shooting team,
Um,
or is it
I think
both?
it might be both, but for
Okay,
sure, their volume is probably right there with the Knicks.
okay.
If I'm not mistaken, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I think
Because
their
that
volume is right there with the Knicks.
because
Or
I
am I
def
thinking? I might be thinking. I think it's both. Their volume and their opponent 3-point percentage. They're definitely
yeah,
with the
they're
Knicks in
bad.
terms of
Yeah,
opponent
yeah.
3-point percentage for sure.
I know
But
that. I
volume,
know
I'll
that
have to
too.
double check actually.
But yeah, I'm basing it off the 47% they shot, and the fact that even with them shooting 47%, Beasley missed two
Mm-hmm.
big threes down the stretch where he was, I think he was fifty
Mm-hmm.
percent himself, and he missed two big ones.
Mm-hmm.
Cade, I don't know if Cade even made a three. I know he missed a bunch of them.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like so, if they could shoot 40% and raise their volume, they will definitely be more of a threat for us. But other than that, I don't know what
But
they could do to adjust.
yeah, but I mean, the other thing to keep in mind is that for some um, teams, as your volume goes up, your efficiency may go down, particularly if you're going out of your way to play in a way that you're not used to. Okay, so let me tell you, in terms of 3-point attempts volume, they're 22nd. The Knicks are 27th. So they take the, is that right? Point attempts. The Knicks take 34. Really? I didn't even think the Knicks took that much. Um,
Um,
34 a game, and Detroit takes 35 a game. Am I right? That is right. In terms of so the Knicks didn't hit
a marker
their
and
their their marker. Now the Knicks are eighth in percentage, and where's Detroit? They
they
can't
must
be
be at the
that.
bottom.
Uh, They're
It's-
17th in
okay,
percentage. So
okay.
they
At what
shot well
percentage?
over their head. They're 36.2.
Okay, okay.
They're 36.2. So they shot
So
it
even
very, very
to,
well. And they didn't take as many. They took 32, right? So they took less than
yeah.
they usually
To,
take.
so to your point, that may be a detriment to them. So even my strategy for them, I don't know what they could really do.
Tony, we ain't NBA coaches. We gonna let them tell us, show us what they gonna do,
I
and
mean,
then we gonna
I mean,
see.
maybe they say if Cade shoots better, that changes things, which is fair. But the same
And if
it's
they,
fair.
I think they're gonna focus on doubling down on what they did well in the third quarter. And in the fourth quarter, how do you take care of the ball more? Limit your turnovers because, and probably for them, they're going to say, we lost it in the fourth quarter.
Hmm.
You know, we turned the ball over. I think they had 7 or 8 turnovers in that fourth quarter. I mean, it says 6, but, they have some team turnovers as well. Um, I'm sure
Shot
they're saying, listen, we played well for 3 quarters. Only thing we need to do in the fourth quarter is take care of the ball, get good shots. And listen, they're probably saying the same thing. Stewart and Duran and Thompson are not going to all be in foul trouble. Is Stewart playing? I know there was a knee injury.
I was just about to say I don't think it looks like he's playing. I haven't read anything official, but
Hmm.
the last thing I did read was it was like questionable or it wasn't probable. It was questionable. The
Okay.
last thing I seen.
Oh, questionable. So yeah, you're right. It hasn't been updated.
So
Um,
I don't know if he's playing, but even if he's hobbled, advantage
hmm.
us. Um,
Hmm.
the last thing I want to talk about, just to
Hmm. Sure.
reiterate, is the campaign, and then we get out of here. Um, do you number one, credit to him again for his performance, right? Because I don't know if we win that game if he didn't have that performance, considering
Hmm.
Mikel
Hmm.
not aggressive, Deuce not shooting well, Brunson really just turned it on right at the same time as Cam did, and OG,
Hmm.
as great as he was in the first half, offensively,
Hmm.
he didn't take many shots. He kind of
Right.
disappeared. So we needed that from him. Do you think he earned a extra a quicker spot in the rotation, or do you think this changed anything for his status? Because a lot of it I do think had to do with guys not shooting well, why his minutes
Right.
increased along with his performance. But do you
Right.
think it's going to be all right if Shamit's not playing well, this guy's not playing well? Now we utilizing Cam, or do you think Cam is going to be a staple?
I think he's earned a look as I think he'll continue to get the backup minute because remember there was concerns that he wouldn't even be in the rotation at all, right? And that
Yeah.
McBride would be backing up
All right. Let me
Brunson.
rephrase it. Do you think Thibodeau has confidence to sit Brunson, whatever. I'm not gonna say extended like 20 minutes, you know what I mean? But sit
Hmm.
Brunson the non-Brunson minutes. Does he make the non-Brunson minutes uh a little bit more safe, non-detrimental?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think that was always the case. Like I always felt that Cam would get those minutes behind Brunson anyway. Um, And if there was any question about it in Thibodeau's mind, let's just say Thibodeau wasn't planning on doing that. I think Cam showed that you need to rethink that. And so I do think he's solidified behind Brunson, in my opinion, for the rest of the series. Whether he gets extended minutes, which would basically mean playing with Brunson, would
Okay,
I think depend on how he
okay,
plays once
gotcha.
he gets in the game because every game in the playoffs is different. Like you can't think that, oh, Cam is going to do that in game two. Game two might be McBride's turn. Game two
Yes,
might be Shamit.
yes,
Game two may be Bridges.
yes.
Every game is a series into itself, so to speak.
And that's actually what I was gonna say. His extended minutes may be based off of how other guys are playing.
Right,
You know what I mean? Like
right.
Shannon gets his look early. If he don't got it early, he may not get the
My
like.
question to you is, does Shamit get another look?
I think he does. I think
You
he
think
does.
so?
I,
Okay.
I think I think what Tibbs has in mind is Brunson. When Brunson gets his break, whatever the break is, that's Cam. You know what I mean? When Josh Hart gets his break, whatever that break is, that's Shamit.
Mhm.
You, you,
Okay.
you know, you know what I mean? So now after that, he'll make his adjustments. You know what I mean? Oh,
Gotcha.
Shaman didn't
Hmm.
play well in his minutes. Deuce don't got it. Cam can play alongside Brunson now. It don't got to be just in place
Right.
of. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Hart is
I
in
get what you're
foul
saying.
trouble.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think he has his set
Yeah.
guys to replace the other guy. But then when they play and how long they play is the situational thing. It's based on how
Right.
games are going, how foul trouble is going, how shooting is
Yeah.
going,
Yeah.
and things of that nature. Um, man, I'm glad to be back. Got a little bit of my anxiety out the way. Sim should be on soon. I'll be on with
Yeah.
him, and then
Make sure they
you'll
know
be
we got a
on.
triple header. We got a
Yeah,
triple
triple
header
header.
going into game two.
You know, MBK, Queens Court. So yeah, this will help me relieve all my
Yeah.
anxiety, and hopefully I
Yeah.
can watch the game with a closer eye because I ain't gonna
Yeah.
front. Is it? I had anxiety watching the game, especially that third quarter. But
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
appreciate you,
Shout
Queen.
out to you.
You
Everybody
on the
keep it right here. Sim is coming on at 5:30. Keep it right here on MBK. 5:30 to 6:30, Sim. And then 6:30 to 7:30, Queen's Court. We're going to take you right into the game
That's
tonight.
right. That's right. Appreciate you, Queen.
Appreciate you.
I see you in a few. See Sim
Yeah,
in
I
a
got to
few.
run and get mine. What we got,
Um,
like 10 minutes?
10 minutes.
Yeah.
10 minutes.
Yeah. All right.
But yeah, you go ahead and get out of here. I'll say peace out to the chat, and
All
I'll see you
right.
in a few.
Salute to the chat. Salute to you, Tom.
Appreciate you. Replay gang. Appreciate you guys. Everybody here live present. Appreciate you, of course. Um, yeah, man. Let's go Knicks. I'm excited. I'm excited. I feel a lot more confident than I did even watching the first game or even before the series started. I said Knicks in 6. I'm leaning towards Knicks in 5. And after tonight, if it goes the way I think it could, might be Knicks in 4. You know what I mean? And some preparation for Boston. Yes, sir. A la wise. I do got to come back with Blanche Tears. I was watching last night on a late night. I thought about jumping in. Won't happen tonight because I gotta get up early for work. But yeah, man, appreciate you guys. Yo, Black is time. Until next time, we out of here.